Peace everyone, welcome back to Stoic Ronin Studio. Before I get into the current state of Catalyst of Quoralis, I just want to get a few questions out of the way. This is an easy one. I want to own what I make. This is a funny one, actually. I only chose C++ because Google said it was the industry standard. When I began my game dev journey, I knew nothing about programming. I didn't understand the difference between languages, so I took Google at its word and started with C++. Hands down, my favorite game is Diablo 2, and it is a huge inspiration for Catalyst of Quoralis. Albion Online and Final Fantasy VII are also really big inspirations. I enjoy the simplified, slower combat of Albion, and the storytelling of Final Fantasy VII is one of the best to do it. As for the story, a few of my favorite movies have inspired it. The Land Before Time and The Dark Crystal, to name a few. I've been working on this project for a little over 2 months now, but if I include building the engine to support my designs, closer to 6 months, but technically I haven't even started yet. The real project actually isn't made. What I'm doing and showing you today is actually just the R&D project. I decided to build the systems by themselves first, so that once I start the real project, I can keep the game code clean and organized. Currently, yes, I will be doing everything, but I don't want to. I founded Stoic Ronin Studio because I want to build a team, not be a solo dev. I am happy to collaborate with anyone that shares the passion and is dedicated to the craft, and you can contact me through the studio website if you're interested in joining. Okay, let's get into the current state of the project. I already built a character base class for the engine, so it was pretty easy to just spawn one, but that doesn't include movement, so naturally the next thing is to build a controller that uses the mouse or point and click movement. Once I had the character moving around, I needed interactables, so I started with NPCs since for the water engine demo game I had already done this, so it was just a bit of copy and pasting some previously written code. The one thing I added was post-processing for the sprite outlining, so when you mouse over an interactable, it has a post-processing component that outlines it. The next step was planning out collisions. The first thing that I did was look at how Diablo 2 did collisions originally, and they have a combination of what's called a subtile block map that uses flags, and that's the way that I initially started setting up the collision for this project. So what I started with was trying to replicate what I thought Diablo 2 was doing and what most people think Diablo 2 is doing. And then I remembered halfway through that I built my engine with Box 2D. So what I ended up coming up with was an improved version of what Diablo 2 did. I still used the tile flags and a simple algorithm to create barriers on those subtiles. The subtiles that get the flags for blocking, I calculate their corners and then I just connect them with a line, and that line becomes a barrier. Having spent time with Unreal Engine, I built most features of my engine using the actor component model. So some of the setup for the project to this point has really been provided just by my engine design itself. I have a lot of those systems already in place where I can create an actor or create a character class, and then I can add components to it, like a movement component, a camera component. That's sort of how I designed my engine to work. So with the basics laid out, it was time to figure out how on earth I'm going to make the world. I had heard of IamGUI, but I'd never used it before. If you go through the history on the GitHub for the water engine, you can actually find 3 or 4 points where I just completely nuked the project completely. Like I just deleted everything and started back from zero. And one of those, I actually did incorporate IamGUI and I tried building an editor, but I got so deep in the weeds, I gave up and then I deleted everything again. It was at this point in this project that I realized that there's just no way that I can build this game without some type of editor interface. And so what I did is I revisited Cherno's early C++ videos.
I can't believe it. It's here.
Where he started his Hazel engine building. I realized the mistake I had made when trying to make an editor. And it was so obvious, I actually laughed at myself for like a week. And it never occurred to me to make the editor a standalone application. So when I saw Cherno setting up his editor as a standalone application, obviously the editor isn't the game engine. It was just one of those moments where the answer was so obvious you look right past it thinking it's obscured by complexity. I basically needed to make an isometric version of MS Paint with saving, loading, and level serialization. I'm going to jump ahead a bit and just show you the current state of the editor because it's the least interesting. But I now have a moving camera, saving with optional overwriting. I have customized tile flags. The tile system uses layers that directly map to Z sorting in the rendering. And just recently I added custom tiles with mirroring and pivot options. All of this gets saved to a tiny binary file, which is then deserialized in the game and then loaded as a level using the tile assets. The editor only makes the save files. The game is not linked to it at all. And that's the editor. I'll probably have to add more features later, but it feels complete enough to finish the demo. The last thing to show is pathfinding. I have no intention of pretending I came up with this without days of trying to find out what already exists. I'm not trying to reinvent pathfinding, so again, looking at Diablo 2, there's no definitive answer, but the general consensus is A-star algorithm. So it's fairly standard copy and paste this algorithm and fill in my numbers in isometric projection. And I use a buffer to push the points away from obstacles. The last thing I use is a Catmull-ROM spline to make smooth curved paths, and then I lerp the player rotation. I invented none of this and I take 0 credit. Anyways, that's the project so far. The next phase will be focused on the actual game, like the questing system, player stats, combat mechanics, and skills. Right now, I don't have an official design doc for the project other than what is in my head, but I'll need to get that soon and have it done before I start the real project and migrate all this code into a nice clean project, especially if I find anyone that wants to join the project. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Peace.